yes, I'm a physio and fit as a physio. These are some taping techniques I use to prevent and treat injuries.
Get them generally to be in prone because they can let their foot relax and you can almost bring them into a little bit of plantar flexion quite easily compared to sort of having to jam them up or sit them up. So normally I just have them in that position. So again, there's lots of different ways to tape these. So I do an anchor basically around just your metatarsal heads. Make sure that that's fairly loose though, because if it's all jammed in, they're just going to complain that their feet are getting cramped and squashed. So have it around, but have it fairly loose.
My variation would be I'd do that with the light fix.
Yep.
Fix them up.
Yep. Now again, there's lots of different ways to doing this, your sort of low die. You can start laterally and come up and around. Again, you've got to be careful of trying to cut off your Achilles too much. But again, follow the contours and you can just then sort of feed it around and finish medially. So generally I'll do, depending on how acute they are, I might do 2 of those, overlapping a little bit. And if you want to really try and target into those bands of attachment, you just slightly overlap. Now for this one, I'm going to cut the corner too much, so I might have to go lateral to lateral for this one. So sometimes you just got to vary your technique depending on where your tape wants to go. So the next one I might need to come down through here, up and around, and then I can change my angle of the tape a little bit and come around his heel a bit more. So that's trying to cover a little bit more that lateral side. If you want to go a bit more medial side, you might need to start medial and either finish medial or you can finish laterally. So again, you can vary where you want to go. So like, what's your name? Mena said, Mena?
Yes.
Mena? You can sort of shorten your arch a little bit. So if you get to there and shorten him up a little bit through that part of his foot, that might actually prevent a little bit of that irritation through his medial sort of band of his fascia. So again, depends what you want to do. So there's no real right or wrong with these ones, but effectively you're trying to limit that load on the fascia and just shorten it up a little bit. So you can go across, you can do just medial to medial, you can go lateral to lateral, it doesn't really matter. If you've got someone who's very acute and you want to then lock it off, I just do a little sort of anchor starting from medial and finishing on lateral, and then you can almost use that as then a little bit of a arch assist as well. So as you come through the anchors, then you can give your arch a little bit of a pull up, and you can just work your way down. And it's an easy one to do. Questions about that?
Is this on the footy field or is this in the clinic?
This is probably more the clinic, I would say.
And then what's your instruction to them when they go home?
As in how long to leave it on for? So I'd probably leave this, if you've got an acute one, like Fergus said, I'd probably go the light fix underneath. And then you can leave it on for a couple of days. 2 or 3 days.
Keep it dry for a couple of days?
No, they can get it wet. They can shower with it. They just got to pat it dry. They can use a hairdryer, run it over to dry it a bit more, but...
I'm not trying to trick you.
No,
I just don't know.
I'm like,
yeah, let's leave this on for 48
but yeah,
hours.
you don't want to come back in a week and it still be on.
Yeah,
so generally 2 or 3 days is enough.
I say leave it on for as long as you're happy not to have a shower.
So you can certainly play around with where you put those strips. And there's a good way to do this with the kinesio tape, which we'll do this afternoon. Which is a nice easy blend from being rigid to kinesio to nothing. Because sometimes they come out of this and then they go to nothing, they feel a bit like they need a bit of support. So
I suppose my variation would be if I'm sending them home, I'll use kinesiology tape because they can leave that on for 10 days and get it wet. Whereas I would do this on a footy field, someone that's got a sore heel on a footy field, and then they can take it off 90 minutes later. Or someone that's really limping in, I'll say leave it on for 48 hours and I say keep it dry.
So if you've got someone who's got an ankle sprain but they've got some plantar fascial symptoms, what are you going to strap first?
Ankle.
Why?
Because you want to stabilise that first.
Possibly. I would go fascia first, only because you can do the foot and then you can flip them over and then your heel locks and your stirrups actually lock all that down on top.
Oh, okay.
So that's just a bit easier. There's no real right or wrong again, but sometimes you're just doubling yourself up. So rather than having to do all the anchors, I'd do the fascia first and then use your ankle as a bit of a locking around the heel. That's how I do it, but there's not overly perfect. Flip back on your back, mate. So in the same way of doing it in this position, if you want to take them up into a little bit more range, is actually take them up into plantar grade, and then you can do your strapping from there. But they're on a little bit more length through their fascia at that time compared to when they're sort of a bit shortened.